Hey, guys, welcome back to TPS. No sports team ever wants to go through a rebuild. The idea of essentially deciding to suck for 3 to 5 years is far from ideal. Teams would rather be like the New England Patriots or New York Yankees and just win every year. But in the NFL, only so many teams can win at any given time. There are some clubs that have too many flaws on the roster, and it's simply time to hit the reset button and try everything again. I'm Justin Fraction, and today we present 10 NFL teams that need to rebuild. At TPS, we post videos every single day, so don't forget to click the subscribe button to subscribe. Then click the notification bell to be notified when we post a new video. Number 10, Green Bay Packers. With Aaron Rodgers entering his age 35-36 season, the Packers might be scared of the whole rebuilding phase. But it's kind of necessary given how wretched the bulk of this roster is. There are no quality pass catchers to complement Devontae Adams. Randall Cobb is gone, and Jimmy Graham should be moved out as well. The defense has some talent led by Blake Martinez, but the secondary and pass rush need upgrades. The Packers made an interesting choice to hire Matt LaFleur as their new head coach. That's not the guy to hire if you want to win right away. So maybe Green Bay has decided they needed to rebuild a bit. Rodgers can easily play at a high level for at least 5 more years, so they shouldn't be afraid to transition a bit for 1 or 2 years. The Chicago Bears are the team to beat in the NFC North now, and it will take some time before Green Bay morphs into a Super Bowl contender again. That's why they should take 1 or 2 years of rebuilding towards the future. Then wait and see if Rodgers can lead that rebuilt squad to another championship or 2. With this current roster, he's not going to get them there. Number 9, Detroit Lions. It felt like a rebuild was in place when the Detroit Lions hired Matt Patricia as their new head coach. Maybe that's what the front office is committed to, but big-time changes to the roster are needed. The Lions ought to move on from overpaid and underachieving quarterback Matthew Stafford. He hasn't led this team to a single playoff win, and he's just far too inconsistent. He's not the QB for Patricia's system, and Stafford would benefit from a change of scenery. But Lions did release well-respected veteran safety Glover Quinn in the offseason, so that's another sign they might be rebuilding. Trading cornerback Darius Slay while his value is high should also be considered. This Detroit team isn't built to contend for a playoff spot, and they're nowhere close to Super Bowl contention. They need to make a change at quarterback and start moving out other veteran players. It may not be in the best interest of the long-suffering fans, but it's absolutely necessary if the Lions want to win their first Super Bowl anytime soon. Number 8, Carolina Panthers. Cam Newton's shoulder injury is a concern, and it completely hampered him in 2018. It's been said that he may have to miss the entire 2019 campaign, which means Carolina can pencil in a losing year plus a high draft pick in 2020. This Carolina team was solid in 2017, but the roster flaws caught up with them in 2018. The secondary is quite a mess, and there aren't enough playmakers at wide receiver, and the offensive line leaves a ton to be desired. With Newton possibly not playing at all in 2019, the Panthers can start the rebuilding process ASAP. Tanking would be a wise choice over the next year or 2. In short, rebuilding is really the only way Carolina can grow into a Super Bowl contending team again. Number 7, Denver Broncos. Ever since Peyton Manning retired in 2016, John Elway has continued trying to find new ways to keep this team's championship window open. Despite 3 straight non-playoff seasons, Elway still doesn't seem to be bent on rebuilding. He traded for a fading and oft-injured Joe Flacco in the 2019 offseason rather than wait and find somebody in the draft. The trade for Flacco shows that Elway still wants to try and field a playoff team in 2019. That's unrealistic, given how far ahead the AFC West rival Kansas City Chiefs and Los Angeles Chargers are. Elway should be looking to trade wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders and Pro Bowl cornerback Chris Harris Jr. Keeping Von Miller makes sense here. There are some young rebuilding blocks to work around in Phillip Lindsay, Bradley Chubb, and Cortland Sutton. That only gives Elway enough of a reason to tear it all down and start rebuilding. Should the Broncos flop again in 2019, transitioning to a rebuild will be an easy choice. But you do wonder if the Boland family will give Elway another chance to fix it. Had he not won the Manning sweepstakes in 2012, the Broncos will be stuck in a decade-long mess. Flacco was the last hope Denver has. If he can't help them turn a corner, the reset will commence at once. Number 6, New York Giants. It's not a rebuild in New York until they move on from quarterback Eli Manning. Yes, they traded world-class receiver Odell Beckham to the Cleveland Browns for 2 draft picks and promising safety Jabril Peppers. It's a nice haul, but not enough to get this rebuild fully on track. The entire offensive line needs to be rebuilt. Pat Shurmur's coaching staff shouldn't have gotten another chance. The defense also needs to patch up a lot of holes. Peppers is merely a replacement for Pro Bowler Landon Collin, who signed with the rival Washington Redskins. It's a nice haul, but not enough to get this rebuild fully on track. You see, there's too many problems on the Giants roster. You might say there are so many flaws to the point where a rebuild is necessary. We're sure the Giants will finally cut ties with Manning after the 2019 season. Once they draft a new franchise signal caller with high upside, the Giants' rebuild will be on track. Number 5, Washington Redskins. 2 decades of Dan Snyder ownership have only led to one thing in D.C., the complete 100% definition of mediocrity. Snyder once again failed to change up his inept front office that continues to make horrible draft decisions and free agent signings. He's giving Jay Gruden yet another pass, even though a 35-44-1 record over 5 years is hardly inspiring. With Alex Smith facing an uncertain playing future, Schneider has to realize this group isn't equipped to challenge NFC East foes in the Dallas Cowboys and Philadelphia Eagles. It's time to restart. Case Keenum is a fine 1-year ad if Smith and Colt McCoy can't play in 2019. But Keenum is strictly a rental here, not a guy who will take over as a long-term starter in Washington. This gives the Redskins more incentives to find their QB of the future very soon. Moving out overpaid cornerback Josh Norman would be a good start. Simply tanking and trying to load up on draft picks over the next 2 to 3 years would be wise too. But really, Schneider's goal should be to clean house of the management and coaching departments and find the experienced personnel who can help the rebuild get on track. Of course, Schneider has never displayed a willingness to make drastic changes, but hey, maybe he'll do something someday. Keep the faith, Washington fans. Number 4, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's going to take a lot of work for head coach Bruce Arians to fix this team. Sure, he quickly turned around the rebuilding Indianapolis Colts in 2012 and Arizona Cardinals in 2013. But those teams actually had a lot of talent in place. The same cannot be said about this Bucs team he's taking over. Jameis Winston hasn't shown many signs of being a true franchise quarterback, one that can guide Tampa to the playoffs. Mike Evans is a top 5 wide receiver in the game, but the rest of the offense comes with many flaws. The defense is a total mess, and it's been that way for several years now. You think Drew Brees and Matt Ryan are afraid of this group? The Bucs have the talent there, and they underachieve on a yearly basis. There are no young franchise cornerstones to build around here. There aren't enough reliable veterans to get this team to the playoffs. The Bucs should have moved on from Winston already. They should look to trade Evans for a bundle of picks, and yes, just about everything on that defense should be moved out so Arians can build it the way he wants to. This team isn't going to challenge the Atlanta Falcons or New Orleans Saints for NFC South supremacy anytime soon. That should give the Bucs more incentive to tear this down and try again. Number 3, Pittsburgh Steelers. This is true. Antonio Brown is gone. Le'Veon Bell is gone. The Steelers need a cultural reset. Quarterback Ben Roethlisberger is quickly pushing 40. Yep, it's time to rebuild. The Steelers have a mere 3 playoff wins over the last 5 seasons now, which simply isn't acceptable for a franchise that is always held to a high standard. The 2008 season marks the last time this team won the Super Bowl. Franchise icons like Hines Ward and Troy Polamalu are gone. Big Ben is all that's left from that Super Bowl team. The Pittsburgh locker room is a mess, and the Steelers must decide if head coach Mike Tomlin is the right man to lead this rebuild. It doesn't help that the Baltimore Ravens look like the class of the AFC North now. With Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns not far behind, Pittsburgh might squeeze out 9 to 10 wins, but the division isn't a cakewalk anymore, and they would scare nobody in the postseason. If Pittsburgh decides to rebuild, they'll have to ask Big Ben if he wants to be part of it and finish his career where he started, or if he wants to win elsewhere. But after a disastrous 2018 season, coupled with the departures of Brown and Bell, a rebuild is necessary in Pittsburgh. Number 2, Miami Dolphins. Alrighty, so Ryan Tannehill was never able to lead Miami to the promised land. So much for being a franchise quarterback. After another mediocre outing by the Dolphins in 2018, it's time to start all over. The Dolphins fired head coach Adam Gase and replaced him with the more defensive-minded Brian Flores, who should bring a nice change after a successful tenure on New England's coaching staff. Miami has a new coach, now they need a new quarterback, and a rebuilt offensive line, and a brand new defense, and more offensive playmakers. The Dolphins aren't catching the Patriots anytime soon. As for the Buffalo Bills and New York Jets, they at least have their rebuilding programs underway. As of now, Miami is set up to be the worst team in the AFC East for the long run. Miami should tank in 2019 and 2020 and start loading up on all the draft picks they can while clearing out room for long-term cap space. If they do this correctly, the rebuild could be done within 3 years, when Tom Brady will likely be retired. We'll see if the Fins have the guts to restart once again, though. Number 1, Cincinnati Bengals. We're closing in on 30 years since the Bengals last won a playoff game, folks. Marvin Lewis is finally relieved of his duties after another pitiful 2018 season, but hopefully owner Mike Brown doesn't think a coaching change is the only thing necessary to fix this group. Andy Dalton has had 8 years to take this team to the promised land. No playoff wins. Time to move on. Might be smart to trade wide receiver A.J. Green rather than extend a guy in his 30s or lose him in free agency for nothing. Get some picks for Green and start this rebuild. You know how that defense was downright pathetic in 2018? We highly recommend the Bengals cut just about everybody except Geno Atkins and Drake Kirkpatrick. The Bengals have no direction right now. 7-9 wins seems to be enough to make the owners happy. Well, the Ravens and Browns are built to win for the long term now. I can't believe I'm talking good about the Browns. That is so weird. I've been here for years. Now we're like, Baker Mayfield. I mean, it's true, but time, it changes, rolls on. Anyways, what was I saying? Well, the Ravens and Browns are built to win for the long haul now. The Bengals won't be catching them anytime soon. If the Bengals were smart, they'd start a full-out rebuild and trade or release just about every core player in their 30s, load up on picks, make room for more cap space, and tank for 2 years. Getting Justin Herbert in 2020 would be huge for Cincy's future. The Bengals must stop condoning mediocrity. It's long overdue to actually start all over and begin a rebuild. Plain and simple. What other NFL teams do you think need to start a rebuild? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.